Expected points, clean sheet odds, who is the best captain and the best players to buy. This video has got all the information you need to know for Game Week 21. I'm going to start off the video as I do with all the Ultimate Guide series videos that I do, and that's by talking about the top players for expected points by position. And starting off, we of course have got the goalkeepers. The top goalkeeper for Game Week 21, according to DraftHound for expected points, is David Raya. Crystal Palace at home is his fixture. I think Arsenal are probably the best team for the odds of keeping a clean sheet this week, and that's shown in the expected points of Raya. 3.9. Second place, we've got Areola. Sheffield United away, obviously a really strong fixture. 3.8 expected points for him. Trafford, Alisson, Pickford, Ederson, Petrovic, Martinez, Verbruggen and Flecken are the top goalkeepers. Defenders then, and we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold leading the list. He's now up to 8.5 million, but with 5.7 expected points against Bournemouth. Obviously, he's a player that can return through three different means, basically. He can get goals, assists, and of course, clean sheets. And yeah, he's obviously a fantastic option in FPL, up to nearly 30% ownership now, and he's the top defender for a Game Week 21. In second place, we've got Gabriel, probably the most goal threat of all the Arsenal defenders, and that's replicated in his points. Ben White, Ake, Doty of Luton, Saliba, Emerson, Mavropanos, I actually pronounced that correctly, Estupinian and Pedro Porro at the bottom there. I think both these guys are propped up by the fact they're so good for attacking returns. And yeah, those are your top defenders. It feels a bit refreshing, doesn't it, not to see Salah and Son amongst the top midfielders, because it makes the game, I think, a bit interesting for Game Week 21, particularly with captaincy, which we'll get to. Foden and Grealish, the top two. Cole Palmer, well, joint second with Grealish there on 6.2. I think any of these guys make a perfectly decent captain, I must say. Jared Bowen, he did pick up what looked like a knock against Bristol City in the FA Cup, but he's got a couple of weeks until he plays for Game Week 21. I'd probably, if I didn't have him already, I'd probably avoid buying him, but I would probably avoid selling him if I still had him. You know, he probably won't miss Game Week 21, but you wouldn't want to take the risk, I think, of transferring him in just in case he is ruled out, because I don't think we'll get a press conference or any news on Jared Bowen really before the 21 deadline. Saka and Odegaard are in there as well. Obviously, Arsenal back to score a couple and keep a clean sheet against Crystal Palace, as we already spoke about. Bernardo Silva, Pascal Gross, who I think is a really decent option, particularly with the fixtures he's got going forward. Raheem Sterling's up there. I mean, question marks on whether he's going to play. Richarlison, I really like him, and I also think he could well be the Spurs penalty taker. But yeah, let me know if you're looking to bring in or own any of these midfielders. On to the forwards now. I need to say that DraftHound are currently assuming that Haaland is going to miss Game Week 21. Obviously, as the week goes on, we'll find out his fitness status and whether he's going to play. But for the time being, DraftHound is saying that he's not going to start. Julian Alvarez, as a result, leads for the forwards. 6.6 expected points against Newcastle. And then really, I don't think the top four is any real surprise. Watkins and Solanke, with the form they've been on, I think are going to do quite well. João Pedro's been in ridiculous form as well, and is obviously the penalty taker for Brighton. Chris Wood and Darwin Núñez. I mean, I always expect Darwin Núñez to be up there in Chris Wood. Wow, 4.9 million, you could take a punt on him. I mean, he did do well against Newcastle. Gabriel Jesus, Nkunku, Cunha and Højlund round off the forwards. Now, I really do think the captaincy is an interesting one this week, and it of course all hedges on, does Haaland play or not, right? If Haaland plays and he's in the team against Newcastle, I think there's no doubt that he's the best captain, but as DraftHound is saying, he's not going to play at the moment. I'm 50-50 on it, but I think the discussion is really to be had of players outside of Haaland, right? We can all assume that if Haaland's back, he's the best captain, but outside of that, I do think we need to have a think about who is the best captain. Now, expected points-wise, we've got Foden, Alvarez, Grealish and Palmer, and Trent as the top five. I would say, actually, I'd back Palmer above any of those City lads, just because Newcastle, I think off the back of a bit of a rest that they've had over this New Year's period, and the win against Sunderland, I do think they're going to bounce back from their poor form. And we all know how good Newcastle can be at St James's Park, right? They can beat anyone. They've already proven they can beat Man City there. So I do think City are going to have a tougher game than the expected points figures suggest. And as for Chelsea and Cole Palmer, well, he is, I'll just get the stats up for you now. He is the best midfielder in the game outside of Salah and Son for expected returns per 90. You can see this list here. He tops it. He's better than Saka, Elise, Richarlison, and, well, Foden's near the bottom and Grealish doesn't even appear on this list, right? So for that reason, and the fact he's the penalty taker for Chelsea, I'd almost be convinced that he's a better captain than Foden, Alvarez and Grealish. I gotta say, I'd be interested to see what you say in the comments. And he is obviously quite highly owned at 28.9%, but just got a feeling he's the best captain for Game Week 21 at the moment. Of course, providing that Haaland doesn't start. And finally, to round off the video, we've got the clean sheet odds, again, according to DraftHound. Arsenal, Man City, Brighton, Burnley and Chelsea are the top teams. 3 teams joint on 38%. You can see there. Arsenal, more likely than not, according to these odds, to keep a clean sheet. Man City are 40% against Newcastle. I'd say that's a little bit high based on recent Man City defensive performances. Brentford, West Ham and Liverpool are the other teams above 30%. Usually I don't like to start defenders basically with clean sheet odds below 30%, but I do think maybe Villa and Tottenham defenders have a shout. Just Man United are so hit and miss, right? There could well be, I do think there's attacking returns in it for Tottenham defenders, but given how hit and miss Man United can be, I do think there's a potential clean sheet there for Tottenham as well, particularly if Van der Ven is back in the team. Question marks around that, but yeah, any of the other teams there you'd see 30% or below, I'd be hesitant to start their defenders from. Alright, and that's the end of the video. Little summary there of all the key information to know before the game week starts. I'll let you in on an embarrassing little secret. I recorded this entire video about half an hour ago and I had my microphone on mute the entire time. So this is the second time I've recorded this one. Hopefully I've appeared as energetic and refreshed as I was in my last video. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on captaincies and potentially transfers that you're going to make this game week. And yeah, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It's just there if you want to see more content from me. And I'll catch you in the next one.